Welcome to DAX Wednesdays, our bi-weekly video episode on DAX formulas and how to use them. In today's video of DAX Wednesdays, we're going to have a look at a DAX function which belongs to the filter family of DAX functions, which is called as calculate. Calculate is an interesting DAX function. We will have a look at it in the demonstration right away. Over here we have a data model which is already ready for you. Data model which is called purchase, and it has these columns. First column is date. Second, we have a seller ID which is unique for each row. We also have a product ID such as honey, cake, spinach. And in the end, we can see we have total purchase, which is nothing but quantity multiplied by price per unit. Now we'll move on to the report view, in which we'll have a look at the calculate DAX function in depth. Over here, what I'm going to do is, first of all, create a DAX function. You click on these three dots on the right side and then click on new measure. Over here, what we will do is, first we will have the total of all the purchases. So let's put in sum underscore 1, which is nothing but sum of the total purchase. Let's click on OK. As you can see, the measure, we have the new measure which is already now added to the purchase table. We'll put in a visualization card and then we'll click on sum to show you the value. So the total purchase value is 1.54k. So this is a representation of the total purchase. Next up, what we'll do is we'll create another measure and we'll have a look at it and the calculate DAX function step by step. So we'll name it sum underscore 2. We'll type in calculate. Over here we see calculate, the DAX function takes in two parameters. First is the expression and then the filter. So the expression that we need is sum. One more time. Let's put in sum purchase, total purchase one more time over here. Now what happens if I leave it just like this? It close in another bracket. I click on OK. You can see the sum to total sum to measure, new measure has been added. I'll put in another card visualization over here. I'll put in a slicer visualization as well, which will have products in it. Now, if I click on the second card visualization and I click on the second sum equation that we had just created with only the first parameter filled in for calculate, you can see this measure has returned the same value that we had for the first measure. But in a sense, it is returning sum of the total purchase. Now, this is where it becomes interesting. Calculate lets you filter the sum of the purchase, total purchase, down to, for instance, let's see what is the total purchase of a particular product, for instance, eggs. So I'll put in a comma over here, put in filter. All right. So this is the filter expression, which is the second parameter of the calculate DAX function that we are putting in. So what does filter do? It is asking you for another two parameters to fill in, which is firstly the table. So over here, I choose the purchase table. Next up, it's asking me the filter expression. So I need to put in the product name, which is eggs. So I'll type in purchase product is equal to eggs. I'll close the bracket over here. All right. So as you can see, this card visualization has changed the value. Now it has returned to me the value, the total purchase value of a product name as eggs. If you go into data model or data view, you can see we have few lines which correspond to eggs, one here, one here. Now this DAX expression has returned the value of the total purchase of eggs. Now if you remember, we had put in the slicer visualization. What if I were to click on only eggs over here? You'll see the first card visualization will change accordingly. If I have to click on eggs, you'll see the first card visualization has changed and it has returned me the same value which we found out by the second sum. So this is an interesting way in how we can use calculate. Now we'll have a look at another way we can use the calculate DAX function. We will unclick this in the slicer visualization. As you can see, the card visualization has now returned us the total purchase of all the products in the table. Now I'm going to click one more time on three dots to put in a new measure. Let's call it sum 3. In sum 3, we are going to look at another version of calculate. Now, instead of calculating the sum of the total purchase, what we can do this time is we'll count rows for a particular seller ID, for instance. So I'll click on count rows. It is asking us to select table. So in count rows, I'll put in purchase table. I'll close the bracket over here. Next up, calculate is asking us to put in the filter expression. So over here, once again, I can put in filter, choose table, which is purchase table. And let's put in seller ID, purchase seller ID, which is, let's say, 1. So we close this one more time. Say okay. Now, as you can see, there are no errors in our DAX expression, and there is a new measure called sum 3, which has been added to our data model. Now, what we'll do is I'll add another card visualization and put in sum 3. So you can see it has returned us a number of rows which belong to the seller ID 1. So if we were to go back to our data model in the data view, you can see there are 1 and 2 rows which belong to the seller ID 1. Now this is another way you can use the calculate DAX expression. Now let's have a look at another interesting version of calculate DAX expression. Click on the three dots again, put in new measure. This time I'll put in sum 4. Type in calculate. Now instead of calculating the sum or count rows, we will calculate, let's say, the average. All right, so average of, it's asking us the column name. So what we can do is, let's pick total purchase again. We choose total purchase, close the bracket in which our first argument has been filled for the calculate DAX expression. Now we need to fill in the filter expression for our calculate DAX expression. So let's put in filter one more time in purchase. Total purchase again, close the bracket, and here we go. As you can see, the sum 4 new measure has been added to our data model. Now what I'll do is add another card view over here. Let's say sum 4, and I click on sum 4 over here. So as you can see, it has returned us the average of the total purchase, which is nothing but the sum of the total purchase divided by the number of rows that we have, which is 102.41. But let's make this expression a bit more interesting. Rather than having purchase total, what we do is we'll add product over here, which is, let's say one more time, eggs. So as you can see, the value has changed to 91.80. So for instance, if I were to go back on the data model in data view, we have two rows of eggs, 102.6 and 81. So it has returned us the average of these two rows. I can even ask the calculate expression to find me the max of all the rows which has product name as eggs. So now it will provide me 102.6. So what calculate has done is it has returned me between the two lines which one is the maximum. So it has returned me 102.6, which is the maximum between 81 and 102.6. I can do a similar thing for minimum. I say okay, now it has returned me 81. So it is the lower value between the two values that we saw. So this is an interesting way you can use the calculate DAX expression. Just remember, you need to have two parameters. First of all, the expression, if you want to have, let's say, count rows, if you want to have a sum of the total purchase as the first parameter, and the next parameter, it should be a filter expression. And it's not necessary that you should use filter all the time. You can use, for instance, same period last month if you are using time intelligence functions, same period last year. So I'll suggest that you practice these DAX expressions at your end. Do not forget to subscribe or leave a comment of what you thought of this video. I will see you in the next video.